The rejection ceremony. Elena stood in the center of the ceremonial circle, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. The full moon hung above like a silver witness to what was about to happen. Around her, the entire Crimson Valley pack had gathered, their eyes gleaming with excitement in the darkness. Tonight was supposed to be the happiest night of her life. Tonight, Marcus, the future alpha of Crimson Valley, would officially accept her as his Luna before the entire pack. They had known each other since childhood. She had loved him for as long as she could remember. But something was wrong. Marcus stood across from her, his handsome face cold and distant. His blue eyes, which once looked at her with warmth, now held nothing but disgust. Elena's hands trembled as she reached out to complete the bonding ritual. "Stop," Marcus said, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. Elena froze. Around them, the pack members whispered among themselves. Her wolf whimpered inside her, sensing what was coming. "I cannot do this," Marcus announced loudly, making sure every wolf present could hear him. "I cannot accept you as my Luna, Elena." The words hit her like physical blows. Elena stumbled backward, her legs suddenly weak. "Marcus, please. What are you saying?" The public mockery. Marcus's lip curled in disgust. "Look at you. You're weak. Your wolf is small and ordinary. You have no special abilities, no strength to offer our pack. How can I make you Luna when you bring nothing but shame to my name?" Laughter erupted from the crowd. Elena's cheeks burned with humiliation as pack members she had grown up with pointed and laughed at her. "I always knew she wasn't good enough for him," someone shouted. "She's barely stronger than a human," another voice called out. Marcus raised his hand for silence. "I, Marcus of Crimson Valley, reject you, Elena, as my mate and future Luna. You are not worthy to stand beside an alpha." The rejection hit Elena like lightning. Pain exploded through her chest as the mate bond, barely formed, was violently torn away. She fell to her knees, gasping for air. Her wolf howled in agony inside her mind. Through her tears, Elena saw Marcus turn away from her. But he wasn't alone. A beautiful woman stepped out from the shadows and took his hand. Jennifer, the daughter of the neighboring pack's alpha. She was everything Elena wasn't: tall, powerful, confident, and blessed with rare fighting abilities. "This is who deserves to be Luna," Marcus declared, pulling Jennifer close. "Someone strong. Someone worthy of an alpha." The cruel truth. Jennifer smiled down at Elena with false sympathy. "Don't feel too bad, Elena. Some wolves are just meant to be ordinary. You can still serve the pack in other ways. Perhaps as a healer's assistant or a kitchen worker." More laughter filled the night. Elena tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't support her. The pain of rejection was too much. She felt like her heart was being ripped from her chest. Her best friend, Sarah, pushed through the crowd and tried to help her up. "Elena, let me take you home." But Marcus wasn't finished. "No. She will leave the ceremonial grounds on her own. She needs to learn that weakness has consequences. Maybe this will make her stronger." Sarah looked at Marcus with disgust. "You're a coward. She deserves better than you." "Get her out of here," Marcus ordered, his voice cold. "Before I change my mind about letting her stay in pack territory at all." The long walk home. Elena finally found the strength to stand. With as much dignity as she could gather, she walked through the crowd of mocking pack members. Their laughter followed her into the darkness. Someone spat at her feet. Another threw a stone that hit her shoulder. She didn't look back. She couldn't. If she did, they would see her tears, and she had already given them enough satisfaction for one night. Her small cottage sat at the edge of pack territory, near the border with the wildlands. It had belonged to her mother before illness took her 2 years ago. Elena stumbled inside and collapsed on the floor, finally allowing herself to cry. The pain of rejection was worse than anything she had ever imagined. It felt like her soul was being torn in half. Her wolf whimpered and retreated deep inside her mind, too hurt to even offer comfort. Elena cried until she had no tears left. Then she lay on the cold floor, staring at nothing, wondering how she would survive this. Her mother's hidden legacy. As dawn broke, Elena finally pulled herself off the floor. Her body ached, her eyes were swollen, and her heart felt like a stone in her chest. She moved through her cottage like a ghost, not knowing what to do with herself. Her eyes fell on an old wooden chest in the corner. It had belonged to her mother, but Elena had never opened it. The pain of her mother's death had been too fresh, and she couldn't face sorting through her belongings. But now, with nothing else to distract her from her misery, Elena knelt before the chest and lifted the lid. Inside were her mother's clothes, some jewelry, and a leather-bound journal. Elena picked up the journal with shaking hands. Her mother's handwriting filled the pages. As Elena read, her eyes grew wider. Her mother hadn't been ordinary at all. She had possessed powerful healing abilities, gifts passed down through their bloodline for generations. But she had hidden these powers, afraid of what others might do if they knew. "My dear Elena," her mother had written on the last page. "If you are reading this, I am gone. I'm sorry I never told you about your heritage. I wanted to protect you. But you are special, my daughter. You have gifts beyond what any normal wolf possesses. When your powers awaken, don't be afraid. Embrace them. Use them to help others. And never let anyone make you feel weak again." Elena closed the journal, her mind racing. Her mother had healing powers? And she might have them too? She looked at her hands, wondering if it was true. All her life, she had believed she was ordinary, weak, not special. But what if everyone, including herself, had been wrong? The wounded stranger. 3 days after her rejection, Elena wandered deep into the forest. She needed to be alone, away from the packed territory where every tree reminded her of her humiliation. The wildlands were dangerous, but she didn't care anymore. That's when she heard it. A low growl of pain. Elena followed the sound and found him. A massive wolf lay in a clearing, his dark fur matted with blood. He was larger than any wolf she had ever seen, his presence radiating power even in his wounded state. Deep gashes covered his body, and he was barely breathing. Elena's healing instincts kicked in immediately. She approached carefully, speaking in a soft voice. "Easy. I'm going to help you." The wolf's eyes opened. They were gold, bright as the sun, and filled with intelligence that took her breath away. This was no ordinary wolf. This was an alpha of incredible power. For a moment, they stared at each other. Then the wolf's eyes closed again, too weak to stay conscious. Elena worked quickly. She tore strips from her dress to make bandages. She found healing herbs growing nearby and crushed them into paste for his wounds. As she worked, something strange happened. Her hands began to glow with a soft silver light. The light flowed from her palms into the wolf's wounds, and she watched in amazement as the deepest cuts began to close. Her mother's powers. They were real. And they were waking up inside her. The healing touch. Elena worked through the night, pouring all her energy into healing the mysterious wolf. The silver light grew brighter as she worked, and she felt something flowing out of her and into him. Not just healing energy, but something deeper. Something that connected them. The wolf's breathing grew stronger. His wounds closed one by one. By dawn, the worst of the damage was healed, though he still needed rest. Elena sat back, exhausted. Her hands were shaking, and she felt drained in a way she had never experienced before. Using her healing power took something from her, a piece of her own life force. But she felt satisfied. She had saved him. The wolf stirred and opened his golden eyes again. He looked at her with such intensity that Elena's breath caught. Then, slowly, he began to change. The shift was beautiful and terrifying. His wolf form melted away, replaced by a man. Not just any man, but the most handsome man Elena had ever seen. He was tall and muscular, with dark hair and those same golden eyes. His presence radiated authority and power. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice deep and commanding. "Elena," she whispered. "I found you wounded. I couldn't leave you to die." He studied her for a long moment. "You're a healer. A powerful one. That light I saw, that was ancient magic. Very rare." Elena didn't know what to say. She had just discovered her powers herself. The man tried to sit up and winced. He was still weak from his injuries. "I owe you my life. What is your pack? I will make sure they are rewarded for your service." "I have no pack," Elena said quietly. "Not anymore." Something flickered in his golden eyes. Understanding, perhaps. Or sympathy. "You were rejected." It wasn't a question. He could somehow sense it. Elena nodded, not trusting herself to speak. "A fool, whoever he was," the man said firmly. "Any alpha who would reject a healer with your power is an idiot." The mysterious mark. The stranger rested for several hours while Elena kept watch. She learned his name was Damien, but he wouldn't tell her more than that. He seemed to be hiding something important. As the sun began to set, Damien stood and tested his strength. He was healing remarkably fast, faster than should be possible even with her healing magic. "I must leave," he said. "There are those who will be looking for me. I cannot put you in danger by staying." "Who attacked you?" Elena asked. "Enemies. Wolves who want power that doesn't belong to them." He looked at her seriously. "Elena, what you did for me tonight, the healing, it created something between us. A bond." Elena's eyes widened. "What kind of bond?" "I'm not entirely sure yet. But you will feel it. A connection. Don't be afraid of it." He reached out and gently touched her left shoulder. "Here. This is where the bond will mark you." Elena felt a warm tingling sensation where he touched her. "I don't understand." "You will," Damien promised. "When the time is right, everything will become clear." Before she could ask more questions, he shifted back into his wolf form. But this time Elena noticed something she had missed before. Around his neck, barely visible in his dark fur, was a marking. It looked like a crown. Only one type of wolf wore that marking. Royalty. Damien looked at her one last time with his golden eyes. Then he turned and ran into the darkness, disappearing among the trees. Elena stood alone in the clearing, her hand on her shoulder where he had touched her. She could feel something there now, something warm and alive. A mark that connected her to the mysterious stranger. The silver mark appears. Elena returned to her cottage as dawn broke. She was exhausted but couldn't sleep. Her mind was racing with everything that had happened. She went to the small mirror on her wall and pulled aside her dress to look at her shoulder. Her breath caught. There, on her skin, was a silver mark. It looked like intricate designs swirling together, and at the center was a symbol that made her heart stop. A crown. The same crown marking she had seen on Damien's wolf form. Elena touched the mark with trembling fingers. It was warm, almost alive. And when she concentrated, she could feel something through it. Emotions that weren't her own. Determination. Strength. And something else she couldn't quite identify. Damien, wherever he was alive. And somehow, through this mark, she was connected to him. Elena sank onto her bed, her mind overwhelmed. 1 week ago, she had been publicly rejected and humiliated. She had thought her life was over, that she would spend the rest of her days as an outcast, weak and forgotten. But now everything had changed. She had healing powers. She had saved the life of what might be a royal wolf. And she bore his mark, a connection that defied explanation. Elena didn't know what any of it meant. But as she lay in her bed, feeling the warmth of the mark on her shoulder, she made herself a promise. She would never be weak again. She would never let anyone make her feel worthless. Whatever power was awakening inside her, she would master it. And somehow, some way, she would make Marcus and everyone who had laughed at her regret their cruelty. The rejected Omega was dead. Something new, something powerful, was being born. And when she rose again, the whole world would know her name. Part 2, The Transformation, 2000 words. 6 months of change. 6 months passed, and Elena was no longer the same wolf who had been rejected in front of the entire pack. Every day, she practiced with her healing powers, pushing herself to understand the gift her mother had left her. The silver mark on her shoulder remained, a constant reminder of the mysterious Damien. Sometimes it would warm, and she would feel his emotions through their bond. She learned to recognize them: determination, exhaustion, anger, and occasionally, something that felt like loneliness. Elena wondered about him often. Who was he really? Where was he now? And why had he marked her? But she had her own journey to focus on. Her healing abilities grew stronger each day. She could now heal injuries without touching them, simply by focusing her energy. She discovered she could also sense sickness in others, feeling their pain as if it were her own. Word of her abilities spread quickly through the nearby villages. People came from far away seeking her help. She healed broken bones, cured diseases, and saved lives that other healers had given up on. They paid her well, and soon Elena had more money than she had ever imagined. But more importantly, she had respect. People looked at her with admiration now, not mockery. They called her the Silver Healer because of the silver glow that surrounded her hands when she worked. Her growing power. One morning, Elena woke to find her mark burning hot. She gasped and pressed her hand to her shoulder. Through the bond, she felt intense pain and fury. Damien was in trouble. Without thinking, Elena closed her eyes and focused on the connection between them. She pushed her healing energy through the mark, sending it across whatever distance separated them. For a moment, nothing happened. Then she felt surprise from his end. And gratitude. The pain lessened, and the fury calmed. Elena opened her eyes, amazed. She could heal him even when he was far away. The bond between them was stronger than she had realized. That night, she dreamed of him. She saw him in his human form, standing in a great hall surrounded by other wolves. They all bowed to him, calling him Your Majesty. Elena woke with a start. Your Majesty? Was Damien not just royalty, but a king? The thought seemed impossible. Yet the mark on her shoulder, the crown symbol, the way other wolves had attacked him, it all made sense if he was someone very important. But why would a king mark a rejected Omega? What could he possibly want with her? Strange dreams and visions. The dreams continued night after night. Elena saw glimpses of Damien's life through their bond. She saw him fighting battles, making difficult decisions, and ruling over a vast kingdom. She saw his loneliness, the way he stood apart from everyone around him, trusted by many but close to none. She also began to see visions while awake. Sometimes, when she was healing someone, she would see glimpses of the future. She saw a great war coming, packs fighting against each other for power. And at the center of it all, she saw Damien, fighting to keep his kingdom together. Elena didn't understand why she was seeing these things. But she knew they were important. Something big was coming, and somehow, she was connected to it. Her powers continued to grow. She discovered she could do more than just heal. She could sense lies, feel the intentions of others, and even influence emotions to help calm frightened patients. The cottage where she lived was no longer big enough. Elena used her earnings to build a larger home with a proper healing room where she could treat patients. She hired an assistant, a young woman named Lily who wanted to learn healing arts. Life was good. Better than Elena had ever imagined it could be after her rejection. She was respected, successful, and growing stronger every day. But she was also lonely. Despite all the people who came to see her, she had no real friends. No one to share her secrets with. The only real connection she had was through the mark to Damien, a man she had met once and would probably never see again. Marcus returns. One afternoon, Elena was in her garden gathering herbs when she sensed someone approaching. She turned and her blood ran cold. Marcus stood at her gate, looking uncomfortable. He was dressed in fine clothes, his hair perfectly styled. He looked every bit the alpha he was born to be. "Elena," he said. "I need to speak with you." Elena's first instinct was to send him away. But curiosity made her open the gate. "What do you want, Marcus?" He looked around at her property, clearly impressed. "I heard you've become quite successful. A powerful healer. I'm glad things worked out for you." No thanks to you," Elena said coldly. Marcus had the grace to look ashamed. "About that night. I was wrong. I should never have rejected you so publicly. It was cruel." "Yes, it was." Elena crossed her arms. "But you didn't come here to apologize. What do you really want?" Marcus hesitated. "Jennifer isn't working out as Luna. She's strong, yes, but she has no healing abilities. Several pack members have died from injuries that could have been prevented if we had a proper healer." Elena's eyes narrowed. "And you want me to come back? To be your pack healer?" "Not just healer," Marcus said quickly. "I want you to be my Luna. I was a fool to reject you. I see that now. Your powers, your abilities, they're exactly what our pack needs." Elena stared at him in disbelief. "You rejected me because I was weak. You humiliated me in front of everyone. And now you want me back because I'm useful?" "I made a mistake," Marcus pleaded. "Please, Elena. Give me another chance. We can be together, the way we were always meant to be." The confrontation. Anger burned through Elena like fire. 6 months ago, she would have cried and begged him to take her back. But she wasn't that weak girl anymore. "No," she said firmly. Marcus looked shocked. "What?" "I said no. I will never be your Luna. I will never return to a pack that laughed at my pain. And I will certainly never tie myself to a man who only values me for what I can do for him." "Elena, be reasonable," Marcus said, his voice hardening. "You're a lone wolf. You have no pack, no protection. Do you know how dangerous that is? You need us." Elena laughed, a sound without humor. "I don't need anyone. I built this life on my own. I'm stronger now than I ever was in your pack." "You're being foolish," Marcus snapped, his alpha authority creeping into his voice. "As your former mate, I have the right to." "You have no rights over me," Elena interrupted. "You gave them up when you rejected me. Now get off my property." Marcus's eyes flashed with anger. He took a step toward her, trying to intimidate her with his size and power. "You'll regret this, Elena. You think you're special because you can heal people? That mark on your shoulder doesn't make you anything but another wolf's property." Elena froze. "How do you know about my mark?" "Everyone knows," Marcus said with a cruel smile. "They say you bear the mark of a stranger. That you gave yourself to some rogue wolf in the woods. Do you know what that makes you? An outcast. A wolf with no honor." The words hit Elena like slaps, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she straightened her spine and looked Marcus directly in the eyes. "Get out." This time, her voice carried power. The mark on her shoulder burned hot, and silver light began to glow around her hands. Marcus stumbled backward, his eyes wide. He could feel the power radiating from her, power that made his alpha authority feel weak in comparison. "You've changed," he whispered, fear creeping into his voice. "Yes, I have," Elena agreed. "I'm not the weak girl you rejected. And you're not the strong alpha you pretend to be. A true alpha would never have humiliated his mate. A true alpha would have seen my worth even when I couldn't see it myself. Marcus turned and fled. Elena watched him go, feeling a sense of satisfaction. She had faced her past and won. But his words about her mark bothered her. If everyone knew about it, that meant trouble. Marks like hers were rare and significant. Questions would be asked. Questions she couldn't answer. The royal summons. 2 days after Marcus's visit, a rider arrived at Elena's home. He wore the colors of the royal pack, and the seal on the letter he carried made Elena's heart race. "Elena, the silver healer," the rider announced formally. "You are summoned to the royal palace by order of His Majesty, King Damien." Elena's hand shook as she took the letter. So her dreams had been correct. Damien was a king. The king, ruler of all packs in the kingdom. She broke the seal and read the letter. "Elena, your presence is required at the palace. There are matters we must discuss regarding the mark you bear and the bond between us. A carriage will arrive for you in 3 days. Bring whatever belongings you wish to keep. This is not a request. King Damien. Not a request. A command." Elena's hands tightened on the letter. Part of her was angry at his arrogance. But another part, the part connected to him through the mark, felt a thrill of excitement. She was going to see him again. The mysterious stranger who had changed her life was calling for her. Elena spent the next 3 days preparing. She packed her mother's journal, her healing supplies, and her best clothes. She arranged for Lily to take over her healing practice while she was gone. She didn't know how long she would be at the palace, but she wanted her patients cared for. On the 3rd day, a royal carriage arrived. It was beautiful, decorated in silver and gold, pulled by 6 white horses. The guards who accompanied it treated Elena with respect, calling her Lady Elena and helping her into the carriage with care. As they pulled away from her home, Elena looked back at the life she had built. She had worked so hard to become strong, to make something of herself. Now she was leaving it all behind to enter a world she didn't understand. But the mark on her shoulder burned warm, and through it, she could feel Damien. He was waiting for her. And somehow, she knew this was always meant to happen. The journey begins. The journey to the capital took 5 days. Elena watched the landscape change from wild forests to cultivated farmland to bustling towns. She had never traveled so far from home before. The world was so much bigger than she had imagined. The guards were polite but distant. They wouldn't answer her questions about the king or why he had summoned her. They simply said she would learn everything when she arrived. Elena spent the journey thinking about what she would say to Damien. She had so many questions. Why had he marked her? What did the bond between them mean? And why, after 6 months of silence, was he suddenly calling for her? Through the mark, she could feel his emotions. Anticipation. Nervousness. And something else, something that felt almost like longing. On the 5th day, they crested a hill and Elena saw it. The capital city spread out before her like something from a dream. Tall buildings made of white stone gleamed in the sunlight. Streets bustled with people and carriages. And at the center of it all stood the royal palace, a massive structure of marble and gold that took Elena's breath away. "We're here, Lady Elena," one of the guards announced. "Welcome to the capital." The carriage rolled through the city streets. People stopped to stare as the royal carriage passed. Elena wondered what they saw when they looked at her. Just another visitor? Or did they somehow know she was marked by their king? The palace gates opened for them, and they entered a courtyard filled with gardens and fountains. Servants rushed forward as soon as the carriage stopped. They helped Elena down and gathered her belongings. "This way, please," a well-dressed woman said. "His Majesty is waiting for you in the throne room." Elena's heart pounded as she followed the woman through the palace halls. Everything was beautiful, more luxurious than anything she had ever seen. Paintings covered the walls, and crystal chandeliers hung from the ceilings. They reached a set of massive double doors. 2 guards stood on either side. When they saw Elena, they immediately opened the doors. "Lady Elena, the Silver Healer," one of them announced. Elena stepped inside and her breath caught. The throne room was enormous, with marble columns and a high ceiling painted with scenes of wolves under the moon. And at the far end, sitting on a throne of silver and gold, was Damien. He looked exactly as he had in her dreams, but somehow more impressive in person. He wore royal robes, and a crown sat on his dark hair. His golden eyes locked onto her the moment she entered. Elena felt the mark on her shoulder burn hot. After 6 months, they were finally in the same room again. Damien stood from his throne and descended the steps. He moved with a grace that spoke of barely contained power. When he reached her, he stopped just a few feet away. "Elena," he said, and his voice was exactly as she remembered. "Welcome to the palace." "Your Majesty," Elena said, managing a curtsy despite her shaking legs. "Just Damien," he corrected. "When we're alone, you don't need to use titles." Elena looked up at him, into those golden eyes that had haunted her dreams. "Why did you summon me here?" Damien's expression grew serious. "Because it's time. Time for you to know the truth about the mark you bear. Time for you to understand what the bond between us really means." He held out his hand to her. "And time for you to claim your place at my side, where you've always belonged." Elena stared at his offered hand, her mind racing. Her place at his side? What did that mean? But the mark on her shoulder pulsed with warmth, and through their bond, she felt the truth of his words. This was her destiny. Whatever happened next, it would change her life forever. Elena took a deep breath and placed her hand in his. "Tell me everything," she said. Damien's lips curved into a small smile. "It begins with a prophecy, made centuries ago. A prophecy about a king who would be marked by fate and a healer who would save more than just his life." As he led her deeper into the palace, Elena realized her story was far from over. In fact, it was only beginning. Part 3, The Queen's Revenge, 2000 words. The Royal Palace. Damien led Elena through hallways filled with servants who bowed as they passed. She could feel their curious stares, hear their whispered questions. Who was this unknown woman that their king treated with such care? They arrived at a private chamber, a beautiful room with windows overlooking the royal gardens. Damien dismissed the servants and closed the door, leaving them alone. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a comfortable chair. "There is much to explain." Elena sat, her heart racing. Damien took the chair across from her, and for a moment, they simply looked at each other. "6 months ago, I was attacked by traitors," Damien began. "Members of my own council who wanted to overthrow me. They poisoned me first, weakening my wolf, then ambushed me when I was at my most vulnerable. I barely escaped with my life." "I remember finding you," Elena said softly. "You were dying." "Yes. I should have died that night. But you saved me." Damien's golden eyes were intense. "When you healed me, something extraordinary happened. Your silver healing magic, combined with the ancient power in my blood, created a bond between us." "The mark," Elena said, touching her shoulder. Damien nodded. "It's called a soul mark. It only forms between wolves who are destined to be mates. True mates, bound not just by instinct but by fate itself." Elena's breath caught. "Mates? But I was already rejected by—" "Marcus was never your true mate," Damien interrupted firmly. "He was simply a wolf who could have been your partner. But you and I, Elena, we are something different. Something rare. The moon herself chose us for each other." "I don't understand," Elena whispered. "Why would the moon choose me for a king? I'm nobody. A rejected omega with no pack, no family, no status." Damien leaned forward. "You are far more than you know. Your healing gift is ancient magic, passed down through a bloodline that goes back to the first wolves. Your mother's family were the original healers of the royal line, blessed by the moon goddess herself. Elena stared at him in shock. My mother never told me any of this. Because it was dangerous knowledge. Many wolves would kill to possess such power. Damien's expression. They arrived at a private chamber, a beautiful room with windows overlooking the royal gardens. Damien dismissed the servants and closed the door, leaving them alone. Sit, he said, gesturing to a comfortable chair. There is much to explain. Elena sat, her heart racing. Damien took the chair across from her, and for a moment they simply looked at each other. 6 months ago, I was attacked by traitors, Damien began. Members of my own council who wanted to overthrow me. They poisoned me first, weakening my wolf, then ambushed me when I was at my most vulnerable. I barely escaped with my life. I remember finding you, Elena said softly. You were dying. Yes. I should have died that night. But you saved me. Damien's golden eyes were intense. When you healed me, something extraordinary happened. Your silver healing magic, combined with the ancient power in my blood, created a bond between us. The mark, Elena said, touching her shoulder. Damien nodded. It's called a soul mark. It only forms between wolves who are destined to be mates. True mates, bound not just by instinct but by fate itself. Elena's breath caught. Mates? But I was already rejected by. Marcus was never your true mate, Damien interrupted firmly. He was simply a wolf who could have been your partner. But you and I, Elena, we are something different. Something rare. The moon herself chose us for each other. I don't understand, Elena whispered. Why would the moon choose me for a king? I'm nobody. A rejected omega with no pack, no family, no status. Damien leaned forward. You are far more than you know. Your healing gift is ancient magic, passed down through a bloodline that goes back to the first wolves. Your mother's family were the original healers of the royal line, blessed by the moon goddess herself. Elena stared at him in shock. My mother never told me any of this. Because it was dangerous knowledge. Many wolves would kill to possess such power. Damien's expression grew serious. When I marked you that night, I claimed you as mine before the moon. It was instinct, my wolf recognizing its mate even when I was too injured to think clearly. But I don't regret it, Elena. Not for a moment. The truth about destiny. Elena's mind raced with this new information. True mates. Soul marks. Ancient bloodlines. It was too much to process. Why didn't you come back for me? She asked. 6 months, Damien. 6 months I spent wondering who you were, what the mark meant. Pain flashed across Damien's face. I wanted to. Every day, I felt you through our bond. I felt your loneliness, your struggle, your growth. But I couldn't come to you. The traitors who tried to kill me were still out there, gathering forces. If I had gone to you, I would have led them straight to you. They would have used you against me. So you protected me by staying away, Elena realized. Yes. And I spent these 6 months hunting down every single one of the traitors. Making sure you would be safe before I brought you here. Damien stood and moved to the window. It's done now. The last of them was captured 3 weeks ago. You're safe now, Elena. And I could finally call for you. Elena joined him at the window. What happens now? Now, I offer you a choice. Damien turned to face her. I am a king. I need a queen. Not just any queen, but a true mate who can stand beside me, strengthen me, help me rule. The soul mark already binds us. But I won't force you to accept the bond. If you want to return to your life, to your healing practice, I will arrange it. I will protect you from a distance and never demand anything of you. And if I stay? Elena asked quietly. Damien's golden eyes blazed. If you stay, I will make you my queen. We will complete the mating bond. You will rule beside me as an equal. And I will spend every day for the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice. Elena's heart pounded. A week ago, she had been content with her simple life as a healer. Now she was being offered a crown. I need time to think, she said. Of course. Damien gestured to the room. These chambers are yours for as long as you need. Rest. Explore the palace. Get to know this world before you decide if you want to be part of it. As Damien turned to leave, Elena called out, Wait. There's something you should know. Marcus came to see me. My former mate. He wanted me to return to his pack, to be his Luna. Damien's entire body went rigid. And what did you tell him? I told him no. I told him I would never go back to a pack that mocked me, to a man who rejected me. Elena stepped closer to Damien. But he knows about the mark. He said everyone knows. He tried to use it to shame me. A low growl rumbled in Damien's chest. He dared to shame you for bearing my mark? It doesn't matter, Elena said quickly. I'm just telling you because Marcus might cause trouble. He seemed angry when I refused him. Marcus, Damien repeated, his voice deadly calm. From Crimson Valley Pack. The one who rejected you in front of his entire pack. Elena nodded, surprised. You know about that? I know everything about you, Elena. I've known since the night you saved me who you were, what you had suffered. Damien's eyes glowed with barely controlled anger. I had planned to deal with Marcus eventually. It seems that time has come. Marcus's arrival at court. The next morning, Elena woke in the most comfortable bed she had ever slept in. Servants brought her breakfast and helped her dress in beautiful clothes that fit perfectly. Everything in the palace was designed for luxury and comfort. A knock came at her door. Elena opened it to find a woman about her age, with kind brown eyes and a warm smile. Hello, the woman said. I'm Princess Arya, Damien's sister. I heard he finally brought you to the palace. I've been dying to meet you. Elena curtsied. Your Highness. Oh, please, just Arya. The princess swept into the room and grabbed Elena's hands. We're going to be sisters soon, aren't we? I can see the soul mark on your shoulder. It's beautiful. Elena touched her shoulder self-consciously. I'm still deciding if I'll stay. Arya laughed. Oh, you'll stay. I can see it in your eyes when you look at my brother. And he's been impossible for 6 months, constantly distracted, always touching his own mark. It's very romantic. Despite her nervousness, Elena smiled. Arya's warmth was genuine and hard to resist. Come, Arya said, linking her arm through Elena's. Let me show you the palace. And tell you embarrassing stories about Damien. They spent the morning walking through beautiful halls and gardens. Arya proved to be easy to talk to, and Elena found herself sharing things she had never told anyone. About her mother's death, her rejection, her lonely months in the forest. Marcus sounds like a complete fool, Arya said after hearing Elena's story. Anyone with eyes could see how special you are. I didn't feel special, Elena admitted. I felt weak. Worthless. But you're not. You saved a king's life. You healed wounds that should have been fatal. And you built a new life for yourself from nothing. Arya squeezed her hand. That's not weakness, Elena. That's incredible strength. They were returning to Elena's chambers when a commotion erupted near the palace entrance. Servants were rushing around, and Elena heard raised voices. What's happening? Arya asked a passing guard. Visitors, Your Highness. Several alpha wolves have arrived seeking audience with the king. One of them is quite insistent. Elena's stomach dropped. She had a terrible feeling she knew who it was. Her suspicions were confirmed when she and Arya reached the throne room. Marcus stood before Damien's throne, surrounded by several wolves from his pack. Jennifer stood beside him, looking as beautiful and arrogant as ever. Damien sat on his throne, his expression cold and controlled. But Elena could feel his anger through their bond. It burned like fire. "You dare demand an audience with me?" Damien was saying. "You, who rejected my mate and humiliated her before your entire pack." Marcus's face went pale. "Your mate? But she's just Elena. She's nobody." "Nobody?" Damien's voice was deadly quiet. "She is Elena of the silver blood, last daughter of the ancient healing line. She is the wolf who saved my life when assassins left me for dead. And she is my true mate, marked by the moon herself." Gasps echoed through the throne room. Every wolf present could now see Elena standing in the doorway, and many dropped to one knee in respect. The grand ball. Jennifer's face twisted with jealousy. "She can't be your mate. Look at her. She's weak, ordinary. I'm 10 times the Luna she could ever be." "You are nothing," Damien said flatly. "And you will show respect to my mate or you will be removed from this palace by force." Marcus quickly bowed. "Of course, your majesty. I meant no disrespect. I came here to offer my apologies to Elena for how I treated her. And to request the honor of an alliance between Crimson Valley and the royal pack." "An alliance?" Damien laughed, a sound without humor. "You think I would ally with a wolf who hurt my mate? You think I would trust someone with so little honor?" "Your Majesty, please," Marcus begged. "I made a mistake. I was young and foolish. But Elena has clearly moved on to better things. Surely there's no need to punish my entire pack for my errors." Damien stood from his throne and descended the steps. Even in human form, his power was overwhelming. Marcus actually stumbled backward. "You're right," Damien said. "Elena has moved on. She has grown into a wolf of incredible power and grace. A wolf worthy of being queen." He looked at Elena, his eyes warm despite his anger. "The question is, will she have me?"